We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
In the run-up to the election, it's going to be quite the month of September for former President Donald Trump as he faces numerous legal happenings. And we're very fortunate to have with us Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, Scott Cosenza, who has been following very, very closely the various hurdles and travails that the former president is facing. Thanks for being here, Scott.
Cheers, Mark. My pleasure.
So I guess what we really need first is a timeline of what's happening for Donald Trump in the multiple cases, but most specifically the one in which he's been found guilty.
Yeah, let's start with the one in his
counts.
The one that starts in his former home state of New York, and the state criminal charges which he was found guilty of, and he's challenging those charges on a number of fronts. And those are all kind of coming to a head now. On September the 16th, the trial judge, Merchan, who Trump has accused of being a kind of political actor, whose daughter has benefited directly from the case because she's some kind of Democrat Party consultant.
Only financially, though. Is the accusation, I believe.
Just to put it out there, because it's often not reported in some other big box media outlets. Mark. Yeah. Curious. But in any case, and that doesn't mean that he, has acted in a biased manner, but if the appearance of bias when applied to a Supreme Court justice from a member of the progressive left, for instance, were the standard, then Merchan would not be able to be judged in this case. But he has said that on September the 16th, he will rule on Donald Trump's motion that the charges be thrown out because he was immune from prosecution as president of the United States. And of course, Merchan will have to use the new Supreme Court ruling that Trump got from his federal case that said that the president was immune from some things. And so we'll see how he applies it to this verdict. Now, that sentence, if he imposes it, and that's another part of the timeline, which is currently scheduled for September 18th. So if Merchan rules there's no immunity, that itself will certainly be appealed by Donald Trump, but he'd rather not have to appeal. He's asking Judge Merchan to hold in abeyance his ruling until it goes to federal court, which is the sort of third leg thing in this case. So Donald Trump has a ruling set to come down the pike on the 16th by the judge on his immunity request or motion. Then on the 18th, if that request is anything other than just denied, he's scheduled to be sentenced on the 18th. Now that could be postponed, but that's the current schedule. And I will say this, that people are not, the New York lawyers that really know this stuff are not expecting a custodial sentence. So we don't think that he's going to go to jail. But then the third leg is, Mark, will Donald Trump be able to move the case to federal court? His last petition to do so was denied, not because of a lack of merit, but for lack of a procedural part, which was that they kind of had to get a sign off from the prosecutor or the judge. So that's where things stand.
Right. So let's game this out as it works. So 16th of September, as far as we know now, Judge Merchan, or Justice Merchan, right?
Well, I didn't say it that way because there's a peculiar notion of state law where in New York, and only New York in the United States, the what's called the Court of General Jurisdiction, or what folks might call the lowest basic trial court level, they are called justices and not judges like they are, I think, in every other state except maybe Louisiana. And you always have to wonder about Louisiana because they follow some Napoleonic code traditions, and it's all wacky. So
okay, so let's stick with Judge for now. So Judge Merchan, he's got a choice before him, and that is whether to take what the Supreme Court said and apply his prior ruling that found Donald Trump guilty of 34 felonies.
No, it was a jury, I think.
Sorry, the jury found Donald Trump guilty in his court. But whether to apply what was ruled or what was decided through the lens of the Supreme Court ruling that said that for official acts, Donald Trump has immunity.
They said
Now,
a president is immune
a president
from official
yes,
acts, right?
yes.
But they didn't weigh in on whether Donald Trump was immune. They just said that a president is immune. And now you lower courts, they were talking to the federal district court that case came from. Now you figure out, was Donald Trump immune? Applying this new ruling.
It seems to me, Scott, that part of the reasons why Judge Merchan might do something other than just say denied, 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 go ahead. We're going ahead for the September 18th sentencing. It is that the evidence introduced during the trial that was presented to the jury by the prosecutors, many of those elements of evidence now seem to be, according to the Supreme Court, things that were carried out during the course of his duties and therefore shouldn't have been admissible, or have I got this wrong? And therefore the verdict was decided on inadmissible evidence. Is that about right? Or have I watched too much Annie McPhee?
No. I think that the arguments that you are making are arguments that Donald Trump's counsel will be making or are making to Judge Merchan. And also, those are arguments that might be persuasive to an appeals court. Now, of course, for Donald Trump, because of this looming presidential election, he's looking to get. I've
forgotten about that.
I mean, in most criminal cases, time is not considered to be of the essence with these sorts of questions. It's like, well, the appeals court will sort it out, and we'll get an answer from them, and then perhaps even further challenge to the Supreme Court. But this case is a little different. One thing that I think should also be said all the time is the decision to prosecute itself is a political decision. It's not like in any case it's a political decision. In other words, even in a case where almost everybody from any ideological perspective would agree that it's a proper and just prosecution.
Like taking your tags off the mattress, yes. Something like that. Or murder, two things
anything
equivalent. Yeah.
But the point is what the society prioritizes. That's why we have elected prosecutors in the United States of America, is that this is supposed to reflect the will of the people in terms of where our prosecutorial priorities are. So if the community is beset with gang violence, for instance, you'd expect that to be prosecuted more than something else. And I just think it's important to make that case known to people. And also, this was an especially political prosecution because previous district attorneys, before Alvin Bragg became the district attorney, who was elected on a promise to go after Trump, by the way, but when Vance was the previous occupant of that office, he wanted to go after Trump.
That's Cy Vance Jr. rather than J.D. Vance, vice president.
Oh, yeah. Candidate. I guess you have to specify these days. Sorry. But he said he couldn't do it. He said the facts weren't there to impute criminality to Donald Trump. And he looked at it, I think, twice. And then it was only after this hotshot lawyer who's like this major anti-Trump lawyer who's worked at the Department of Justice, the Manhattan DA. I think he consulted with Fannie Willis in Georgia. He's like a one-man wrecking crew for Trump, kind of convinced, I guess, Bragg that they had a colorable case that they could make. And it's all political in that sense.
So Donald Trump will certainly appeal if Judge Merchan decides to go ahead with the sentencing. That will, by its nature,
he's already going to appeal anyway.
Yes.
That's just going to be a part of the appeal, I can tell you. Yeah.
So if it does go ahead to the 18th, where I believe it's scheduled for now that a sentence will be handed down. Now let's talk about that. In fact, we're going to talk about the sentencing of Donald Trump and what that might mean if indeed it happens after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.